What's up, everybody? It's your boy Emceemur here, and today we're taking a look at a recent NIS America release and one of my most anticipated games of the year, Crymachina. And I want to thank our friends at NIS America for letting me take a look at this game right here on the show. There's a lot to unpack here, some of it fairly unexpected, so let's get to it. I was intrigued by Crymachina the moment I saw trailers at its announcement. Cyborgs and machines resurrecting the extinct human race in a post-end-of-the-world scenario? Yes, please. And the artwork just instantly sold me on it, alongside the concept. An action RPG at its core, although at points it feels like it is or could have been something else. You play as a set of characters you will develop as you advance. You have your EXP or experience points to raise levels, as well as your ego points. Pooled and shared resources between the characters, which challenges you to ration these all out and tune the party your way. And I'm finding I need to go back and replay levels I already completed in order to grind additional points to get me to the recommended level minimums for the upcoming stages. The grinding also allows you to grab additional ego points as well as weapons and add-ons. You're going to be changing and tweaking your character's loadouts often, because every stage has its own creative boss fights that will vary in difficulty based on how well you're equipped to face them. Now, before we dig any deeper, there's a lot of reading in this game since it's Japanese voice acting with subtitles, and that doesn't bother me. The voice acting is great, and the storyline is a big part of what intrigued me about this game initially, and it delivered on that front in a heavier dose than I expected, because this game is as much a graphic novel as it is an action RPG. A lot of the dialogue is optional and can be skipped through either way, but you do earn ego points for these scenarios. And the story is as cool to me as it initially sounded. Here we have 3 female cyborgs and 1 android who all seem to have romantic interest in one another. I'll allow it. This whole deal takes place in space thousands of years after the fall of mankind, and these machine entities referred to as Deus Ex Machina are trying to recreate the human race through use of cybernetics and the implantation of core human memories translated from data and codes. The characters wrestle with flashbacks from the past of their former identities, and the plot starts to play out right in front of you, largely because in between stages, the girls host tea parties and talk. A lot. Again, not a bad thing if you dig the story, and I do. There are issues though. Glaring, impossible to ignore issues. The stages are in a lot of cases just point A to point B, and maybe C, pathways. There's no real exploration to speak of, and that is an element you really can't lack as an RPG. Some stages have platforming puzzles worked in, but that definitely doesn't do for me what dungeon exploration would do. Every once in a while, you'll find a path branching off that exists just to lead you to an optional boss fight that'll be impossible at your current level, but they're meant for you to backtrack later and finish off when the time is right. And we gotta talk about the combat, which is very frenetic and looks very cool and all, but it's very hard to get a grasp on what's going on at close range. It looks like you're in the middle of a laser light spectacular, and it's hard to discern what of your attacks are landing and what of your opponent's attacks are landing. I mean, yeah, you see the damage numbers, but good luck dodging or parrying anything in this mess. And you need to do those things because you're rewarded for perfect dodge and perfect parry attempts. At long range, you can more easily see the attack attempts and patterns to develop a strategy, but you really don't have an option for all combat to be long range. The long-range options you do have seem like their ranges are always changing. I never know if they're going to do any good. And in this game, hits from even just the stage enemies can deplete 3/4 of your health in a single blow out of nowhere, while other times just barely damaging you. You have bosses that can one-hit kill you with a hit you won't even see, but then you'll try again and whoop them. All in all, combat consists of doing a chunk of damage in order to stun or weaken the enemy, then launching it into the air when prompted, followed by a heavy blow finisher, and that's it. That's your moves. Damage, of course, varying based on your setup, but then the setup ends up being all the strategy. you have NIS, who as an NPC acts as kind of a coach for your team, if you will. You can call in support attacks from her, as well as buffs and healing, all of which vary in effectiveness based on your separate development of her abilities. How well she performs these tasks and how many times she can do them per outing can all be enhanced, but requires use of the same pooled points you use to buff the player characters. Circling back, the boss fights end up being the whole of what the gameplay ends up being here. The rest of the experience just leans in very heavily on the story, which again is a good story, but the levels feel empty and almost pointless at times. Some with few as 2 enemies showing up before ending up at the boss fight, and they're predetermined, not random, so there's no traditional grinding here, just repeating the stages if necessary. The levels are all dark and in many cases similar in appearance, which I get. We're in the wreckage of a giant space station thingy, but this doesn't do much for the game being a treat for the senses, right? And on top of that, the graphics aren't great, okay? I mean, which is sad because the artwork, specifically the character design, is outstanding. This said, I'm playing the Nintendo Switch version here, and I wonder how much that has to do with it. But even docked, the lines and the graphics are a muddy, blurry mess. I really want to see this on a PS5 now, but hey, I prefer my RPGs of any kind on my portable consoles. This game is available for Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC, so again, there's obvious opportunities for this to look better, but by how much, I can't really say. Circling back to the artwork, again, super freaking cool. The characters look like sci-fi horror versions of the Sailor Scouts. The boss designs are just as cool, and they exist as actual characters with backstories that are worked in, so that's a cool dimension. As they're defeated, you see text from their core memories fragmenting into the air, and some of them are very dark or just sad. It really makes you feel for them as characters, and it adds to the story. I guess what I'm driving at is, this game has so much unrealized potential. I love that it has a looter aspect, that being the randomness of the finds in stages and the items unlocked by codes, and I really like the loadout customization and the interface for said customization. Where it falls somewhat flat is the stat upgrades fail to make palpable differences, all except the hit point buffs and increasing your health recovery rate. Those two things alone are helping me through the more challenging battles. The rest of the tweaks may be helping, but it's tougher to detect. In fact, there's really nothing that properly explains the system to you. With all the talking that goes on in this game, they somehow fail to have an actual tutorial, which has left me in the dark about a lot of things I see going on in front of me. I don't expect or want the game to hold my hand in any way, but I feel like this is one of those games posing a challenge only in the sense that there are things I'm not utilizing because I don't know they exist. I of course figure out a lot of things that I need to know eventually by reading the logs and the archives and whatnot, but it felt strange going looking for explanation of the game's basic functions. And dialogue continues during gameplay and combat up in the top left of the screen, but you can't take your eyes off the action to read it, so maybe I missed crucial information. I mean, I'm almost certain I did. Again, this isn't English dubbed, so listening to it is out of the question. You gotta read this stuff. And further investigation, and this makes sense, leads me to find out this game is a successor to a previous NIS release from Furyu, Crystar. And that was not a game I reviewed or played, so maybe that's why I'm in this as blind as I am, I don't know. But the popular consensus I'm hearing in comment sections is that Crymachina improves on many aspects that Crystar fell short on. Which raises the question, how bare bones of an experience was Crystar? I mean, as it is, Crymachina is good proof of concept at best, but it doesn't seem fully fleshed out. And all that said, I am still quite enamored with this game, because the story is badass. I mean, if this was an anime, I would binge it. But since that's what they opted to lean in on for this game, it leaves very little reason for replay, other than 100%ing anything you forgot, going completely different routes in character development, or maybe speedrunning it for amusement, I don't know. So with no real replay value, we run right into another wall. This game is the full $60 price tag, when there have been many much more robust RPG offerings from this publisher at only $50 with physical extras. this just isn't a $60 game in my opinion. It's perfect framework for a $60 game, but without branching dialogue and paths, and even just a quasi-open world, this doesn't live up to that price tag. For what it's worth, the physical edition does come with a code for a digital soundtrack, a physical mini art book, and reversible cover art. And at the $99 level, available from the NIS America Store, you get the big box edition with a hardcover art book, physical soundtrack, and a few other assorted goodies. Stock is limited, so if this is something you're considering, click the link in the description of this video. I still think it's worth a playthrough, but I would hold out for a digital sale or something. At a lower price tag, I think the storyline and combat are definitely enjoyable and worth a look. I can't say I'm not still intrigued by it and that I haven't enjoyed it, because I have. But at any rate, Crymachina, there you have it. Have you played this game? And if so, what do you think about it? What did you think of this review? Let me know something in the comments section, because you know that I love getting a conversation going with you right here on the Emceemur Show, something that we do a lot of, and I'd like to say thank you again to our friends at NIS America for giving us an opportunity to look at this game right here on the show. If you like this review, and if you have not already done so, make sure that you subscribe to the Emceemur Show and drop a like on this video. It helps out more than you know. Emceemur signing off for this fantabulous video, and I will see each and every one of you again next time.